My junior high years, from what I can remember, were okay. Nothing major, really. I went to Jones Junior High, Road Runners, on the south side of Toledo, Ohio. This is kind of the Hispanic side of town, stretching into the east side. I also want to mention that none of my schools that I went to are the same. They are either no longer standing or they have been changed. I don't believe St. Martin de Porres is even still a school. My middle school years were not that bad. I managed to stay away from the gangs and peer pressures of drugs. I don't remember any cliche type situation happening of me being offered drugs. My teachers hated my ass though. Man, I gave them teachers hell because of my attitude. They were rude to me and I was rude right back to them. I was argumentative and just flat out had a smart ass mouth. But on top of that, my intuition was kicking in. The Most High was preparing me for today. When I was a boy, I had always said I wanted to be a lawyer or a judge. I never went after it because as I got older, I started to realize that the government is corrupt. Nothing would ever be right in America until the current head is totally revitalized, and I am talking about a mass exposure and firing. I think everyone in this country has a right to know all the secrets that the president or whoever knows. If there really has been contact with aliens, we should know about it. All these secret societies need to be done away with. How can people be so dumb to vote people in as president, but he keeps secrets from the Mexican public? Oh, so you marry your husband, but you allow him to keep secrets that involve you, your household, and your kids away from you. That is pretty much what's going on here. There should be no secrets, but hey, keep being sheeples. Junior high is where I would start my whole dance team thing. You know what's crazy? I never thought about dancing until I went to practice with Shantina. When I first started dancing in junior high, I was not that serious about dancing. I didn't even take the whole dance team thing serious until I got to high school. I never really had an interest in anything other than being at home, even though it was a miserable place to be, playing my video games. I was never into sports because no one took that time with me to show me how to play. I always knew I could dance, but I never gave it any thought. It was just something I kind of stumbled across. Hell, wasn't much I could do. I am a horrible artist. I can't draw nothing. And paint? You mean get my clothes and fingers dirty? No, sir. So dance it was. I am really trying to think of anything that happened in junior high, but like I said, my junior high years were only 2 years and nothing really happened. No sex with boys, nothing like that. I knew I liked guys and I had crushes, but I never acted on it or had any experiences. I did used to skip junior high a lot. I would go over to my cousin Akika house or I would just stay home. I was able to do this because both my parents had to be to work by 7 a.m. So I would be at the house in the morning by myself, and this had been since elementary. This was how I was able to go to Yummies and get candy. By the way, the whole candy situation became so bad, my dad, with me, had to go talk to the owner of my favorite store, Yummies, to ask him could he open up his store a little later in the morning so I couldn't buy candy to sell it to the other kids. My dad, Cliff, and his brother Keith all grew up together, so they knew each other. Keith used to cut my hair because Yummies is connected to a barbershop and they have a restaurant too. Hey to all my people at Yummies. They knew me because almost every day I would get a Yummies burger, a cheeseburger with lettuce, onions, ketchup, and fries. They have really good food, and I would use the money I got from selling candy to buy food or video games. The next pictures are from around the time I was in junior high. My principal was Pamela King. Miss King was a beautiful light skinned black woman with short blonde hair like Eve, the rapper. She still is beautiful. She was not to be played with. I always remember her long fingernails that she kept done. I didn't give her too many problems, and that's because I was never a bad kid. I just had a smart mouth. I didn't get many spankings as a child because I was boring. I had no friends and I never really went places to do stuff. Guess what? Today, I am the same way. This is why no one from school really sees or hears from me unless I come home, because I stay out of the way and in my own lane. I have always been the loner type, and I am still that way today. This was me around junior high. Okay. See, I look like a normal boy. I had not developed my style yet. At this point, I was still trying to blend in. I wore baggy jeans and I was in junior high during the whole FUBU craze, so I had a lot of jerseys. I attended Edward Drummond Libby High School. I was nervous about my first year of high school, but I had my big cousin Kenyatta with me, who was older. I know there are so many horror stories about freshman year, but I didn't experience anything bad. People would say shit behind my back about my sexuality, but I was never disrespected to my face. High school was when I started to really see how fake people could be, though. One of my male cousins on my dad's side that I was close with coming up started to act different towards me. All of a sudden, it wasn't cool to be seen with me. A few of my cousins acted like that towards me. I said if I ever hit it for millions, I hope they will excuse me for returning that same energy. These cousins who I went to school with know who they are. Oh yeah, I can't forget about my childhood friend that stayed right around the corner from me. I even went to his B-Day party and he came to mine because we were friends, but that would all change once we all became older. I guess it wasn't cool to be around me, which was cool because I was doing my thing too. I accepted my cousin and friends switching up on me. I think this is why I am the way I am with people today. I can just cut you off and not feel nothing because it's been done so many times to me. I just moved on and never said anything as they joined this gang called the 900 Boys. As for my cousin, I always wanted to tell him that I know he looked down on me for being gay, but I looked down on him for dumbing himself down to be validated by people that really had no future. That's not shade, it's truth. My cousin coming up was a lot like my brother, Mike, very smart, and I mean it, very intelligent, but they both hid it. My brother Mike was a Belmont boy, another gang. I am proud of my cousin today because he came into the truth not too long after me. I always joke and say when he was rapping and penning, I was penning this very book. I've had different versions of this book. Earlier, I said this originally started out as a report but turned into this book. My cousin used to make DVDs, and at the time I was first coming into the truth, I started learning about the Illuminati, the history of our people, and I had all these videos from YouTube that I wanted him to put on DVD for me. During the time of this picture, both of my parents were still together and we were still on Ewing Street, but they were getting ready for a divorce for the second time. This picture is either from my sophomore or junior year in high school. I was in high school 01 through 05, class of 05. I never wanted to be popular in high school, but it happened. My freshman year is where I would meet a woman who was like my second mom during that period. There is an old saying that it truly takes a village to raise a child. The village I come from, I know I am blessed. I have had a few mother figures in my life, but none could ever compare to Miss Rochelle M. Dunning. To me, she was Coach D or Miss D. It's not about the quantity, but the quality. I live by this today. She instilled values into not only me, but all the other kids from band slash dance team to the Afro Club. This was a woman who went toe to toe dancing with me, John F. Savage II, and would kick my butt. We would meet up, not planned, at Ohio Skate and roll out. She truly was my girl. If Coach D from the Dancing Dolls come across this, I want her to know that I know she is great because I had a Coach D in my life. She will always be a phenomenal woman, phenomenally. She was like a mom to me. I could never repay her for all the time and love she put into us, going into her own pocket for uniforms, music, and so much more. She, along with the team, had to deal with racism and jealousy from a drama teacher at Libby. She did so much, all while going back to school for her degree. She truly was a role model that I love, and I will definitely miss her. DJ played Dear Mama by Tupac and Roll Out by Ludacris for my girl. That was her song with us. My heart and condolences goes out to her son Mike and her family, as well as her Scott Bulldog family. Miss D is legendary. She built us up, and I would not be the man I am today if it was not for her. My heart is broken to hear that my coach, my mentor, my road dog, my ace, went on to be with the Most High, but I know we will see each other again. I will keep her and the many memories we shared in my heart and in my mind forever. Thank you, Coach D, for everything. I love you. Also, R.I.P. Devin Cooper, Sequoia, the other drum major. It was either the end of my freshman year or sophomore year, but I remember moving with my mom after my parents got a divorce the second time. I was about 16 or 17 at this time that I got my license and was driving. I remember going to driving school and taking my test in my car. It was a 1995 or 96 Chevy Cavalier. My mom had met her wife and was always with her. I just didn't know that they were getting into a relationship, so I would always have the house to myself. We had a computer. I would get online, and this is where I stumbled across the AOL chat rooms and hookup sites like BGC, Black A Chat, and A for A, Adam for Adam. I did the webcam videos and sexy pics without my parents knowing, but I was so dumb because I was underage and I could have gotten people in trouble because I would lie about my age. Also, it could have been anyone behind the screen, so please be careful, especially if you're underage. I remember one time my mom was gone and she had was with her wife, and I was at home alone. I used to ride a bike, and I was coming home one time, and I actually got hit by a car. No damage done. The car ended up speeding away, and I ended up getting up and I kicked the car as it sped away. I remember that. During this time, before I met my friends, I met one guy and he was attractive, but we just chilled, meaning we did nothing sexual. He could tell I was 16 and didn't want to get in trouble. Other than that, I never really had anyone over to my mom's house over in Revere. One of the very first people that I became friends with was a former friend of mine, and we'll just say his name is A. When I say former friend, it's no shade, but we don't talk nor keep up with each other. So it's not like he is an enemy, but we are just not friends. Today, I don't have any friends. I don't believe in friendship. That is the way I'm going to keep it. One thing my dad would always yell, "You ain't got no damn friends." And I guess he was right about that. Now, Al was a little chubby, but my boy had swag. He was liking me at first. He probably won't admit it today, but he was liking me. He used to tell me all the damn time how I was so pretty, like my sister, who I called my best friend. I always said She was my sister. We grew up from elementary all the way to high school. Al and I did hook up one time though, and there was no penetration, just some oral. In my mind, I knew he was not my type, but I never officially did anything with a man. Let me make it clear though, Al was not an ugly dude, and he could dress down. I just never been into bigger guys. I liked Al because he reminded me in some ways. He was raised by both of his parents who were similar to my parents as far as the career thing. His family is known in the city as well. It was Al who introduced me to my former best friend, D, who I'm going to call Kim Love. And he gave himself that name in college. Whatever. D has always been a wild dude. Smart, but he always got in the way of himself. Kim Love comes from a single parent home. His mom was off the hook too. His family, like my family, has an alcohol demon, generational curse. I always liken D to and I to male versions of Sydney and Shireen from the classic movie House Party, only because we called each other sister. Well, to be clear, D started calling me that, and I followed back. Today, I don't allow people to call me sis or whatever girl names they change my name to, like Johnny or John Asia or all of that stuff. No, my name is John. I was more like Sydney and Kid, where D was more like Play or Shireen. We grew up different and our families knew each other very well. My dad knew his mom, and his aunt Cynthia, husband Vincent knows my mom's side of the family. They all grew up together. D and I messed around once, no penetration, just oral. It was kind of like Noah and Ricky off the show Noah's Ark, in which I love that show. By the way, I was the Noah in my circle that would eventually grow bigger. Saran, Junior, David, Eddie, to name a few. But the main three was Al, D, and me. There was another movie called Punks that had a mostly uh, black cast about gay life that I love too. I also remember seeing the TV show Oz. Baby, I used to love seeing the male nudity scenes. Oh my god. I had the biggest crush on Supreme Allah, Mondo Brown, and Kenny Wangler. So yeah, instead of me jacking, fantasizing about girls, as all normal teenage boys do, I was fantasizing about the three guys I mentioned as well as other male celebrities. I mean, HBO was off the hook at that time. Man, I remember shows like Real Sex, Hookers on the Point, and my favorite, Taxi Cab Confessions. Man, HBO was that deal. I also remember Beverly Hills Bordello too from Showtime. Keep in mind, I was still a sophomore, junior at that time, but I would take a few trips to cities like Indianapolis, Chicago, going to meet guys I had met online. There were a few hookups, but nothing to brag about. Nothing long term came about. This was all after I started going up to Detroit. I sometimes think about how I was able to pull so many trips off without getting caught. Sometimes I even went by myself. Man, I am so thankful today that nothing happened to me. When you are young, you do not think about the dangers that could occur doing sneaky, stupid stuff. Some more dumb stuff I did when I was around 16, 17 is I would fill my gas tank up, drop the pump on the ground, and hit the expressway. We did this like every day in the summer of 2003. I was like almost over 20 something years ago. I would never even think to do that, but I learned it from my transgender friend at the time. We all danced together in the summer of 2003 in this dance group called House of Adonis. We all randomly seen each other at the gay park one night, wasn't planned, up in Detroit, and from that point on, we would all just hang out. In Toledo, it was cliques. There was Twan, Dorian, rest in peace, and Calvin. They were the generation before me, D and Al. I never had sex with the older generation of gays in Toledo. They tried to hook me up with someone named Scrappy, but I wasn't on it. He didn't even stay in Toledo at that time. I will never forget that summer. It will be my first time going up to Palmer Park in Detroit. Man, I love Detroit with a passion. I always called it Gotham City because that's what it reminded me of, especially at night. Woodward and 6 Mile in Detroit was my area. We would hang out at Palmer Park with the transgender girls that prostituted on the stroll. One time, I remember meeting this girl named Poonie. I think that's how you spell her name, Punni. I really did like her because of how she was just her outspoken self. She was so real to me, in my opinion. Real meaning she could pass for a real woman. I was 16 or 17. She did not know this at the time because she didn't know me. And she approached me. She was like, I like your look. Do you have a gay mother? I was so naive at the time because there was no social media at the time and gay culture was not in the spotlight how it is now. So I said, yes, her name is Sarah. And Poonie was like, I don't know her. She was like, oh, I don't know her. What house is she in? I said, well, our house is in Toledo. That's where we live. And she was like, oh, okay. And just walked away. I didn't know she was talking about the whole ballroom circus scene, which she was a part of. When she asked me who my gay mother was, I said my mom's name because my mom is gay. Well, she's a lesbian. I didn't understand that she was trying to become my gay mother. I know. What is a gay mother or father? The easiest way to describe the whole gay mother father thing is these are more experienced people in gay life. Being a gay mother slash father is usually tied to being in the ballroom circus scene, which was supposed to be a safe haven, a type of community that embraces gay youth, usually, that get kicked out of their home and family by their parents. In the ballroom circus scene, it's typically drag queens, gay men, or transgender women who provide guidance and support for their house children. Even though being a gay mother slash father is usually tied to the ballroom circus scene, it's not limited to the ballroom circus scene. You will even hear some of the people in the ballroom scene say things like, I am a mother slash father outside of the scene. I have children that are not in the ballroom scene. Some are successful, some are not. I've seen how some heterosexual parents will kick their own children out of the home, disowning them. Well, these kids still have to learn about adult life, how to get a job, pay bills, get an apartment, and of course, how to navigate through the gay world. Being gay is not all about being in the ballroom circus scene. It's a small part of it. I do see the benefit of the gay mother slash father role if it is done right, meaning no drugs or sex with their children. I myself did not get to have that experience because I always felt like I didn't need it. I had a mother and father who raised me. I learned by watching other people talking and listening to them talk about their experiences. I kind of seen the opposite of what I just described with the whole being a gay mother slash father. I had seen how some of the older gay people would prey on the younger gay people by taking on these roles of being their so called gay mother slash father. Now, all people are not like that, but I will not act like it doesn't happen, especially in the ballroom circus scene. I will never forget this one boy who did not want to start dressing in drag, but he was pretty much peer pressured into it. He was trying to do his thing in the ballroom circus scene, and I thought he was really good at voguing. I asked him, if you don't like doing drag, why do you do it? I will never forget how he told me, they only see it for me when I get in geesh, drag. But what I don't get is how my vogue is the same. I'm just done up, but they live. As time went by, I would eventually see him on the stroll. His gay mother had now shown him the ropes. This is the wrong way for a parent to act. Thank God we never did anything sexually. I was just friends with him. I met him one time at some community center for the LGBTQIA off of Woodward. It wasn't that far from the park. I'm not going to put his name on blast out of respect because he is no longer here. Rest in peace. I do talk about my views of the ballroom circus scene further along in the book because of the hypocrisy the scene can exude at times. I love going to the post to vibe in the energy of one of the best DJs in the world. Her name is DJ Scent. There was innuendo where we had seen these lesbians brawling one night. One of them ran over the other and backed over her. Detroit is dangerous at times. The Palladium, where one night during Gay Pride, these straight boys walked up and started shooting at the crowd when the club let out. Thank God he was with me that night because that could have been me or my friends that night. But my all time favorite was the strong arm parties at the Tangent Gallery. Baby, we had a time many of those nights. It's not always about sex either because I am not as sexual as one would believe. I just really like to go out and have fun. At this time, I was not even drinking or smoking. I met a few guys, but obviously it wasn't nothing serious. I was young as hell at the time. I was just trying to learn about this new world I was experiencing. I would lie about my age, but most of the time I would know whoever was throwing a party or I knew who was working the door. I would flirt, get to know people, but most of the time things never turned into anything sexual. Sometimes I wouldn't even get carded to get in the clubs, and that's because I was not wild. I knew how to act. I've always been the mysterious, cool, calm, and collected one. I'm not here to tell all of my former friends' business, just the parts that include me. At this time, I was a goody two shoes, meaning I didn't smoke or drink. I think I started smoking weed and drinking lightly, never been a big drinker later during my college years. A lot of my time that I spent going up to Detroit, I was being a babysitter for Al and Dee, trying to keep them out of trouble, but I would have my fun too. I have never been the overly sexual type. I have always been more of a tease. I'm not as sexually experienced in the bedroom as most would think by just looking at me. I have always been more relationship oriented. If I met a guy and he was not on what I was on, then I would not be interested. My first boyfriend was a guy named Jay. He is a Virgo from Fort Wayne. When I look back, I can't even be mad at Jay because he was my first dude and I literally had no experience. He did cause some drama with him being so loose. He was a new face in the city, so he was getting to know a few too many people quite well.